heavyweight division, take the title away from him.
Jon Jones called us last night and retired. Jon Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
About it. Let's be honest. And since I won that fight, he's gone completely quiet, and he'll continue to go completely quiet about me until he retires, because there's no way on earth that he's going to fight me. Not a chance. I will retire Jon Jones without even fighting him.
So Dana White finally breaks the news that Jon Jones has officially retired from MMA, and it is finally over. This has been a circus and a clown show that has been going on for far too long, as the UFC allowed Jon Jones, and the UFC is responsible as well for holding up the career of Tom Aspinall along with the heavyweight division. So this is finally over, and the writing was on the wall forever ago that Jon was never going to step in there and fight Tom Aspinall. And I had sat up here along with many others and said, this fight is most likely not going to happen. We knew, man. Jon Jones wanted no parts of Tom Aspinall. Even when he's asked in an interview about Tom Aspinall, or he's anticipating that he's going to be asked about Aspinall in an interview, he wanted no parts of it. And I think that this comes down to the delusion and the greed of the UFC and their ego, as they thought that they could get Jon Jones to do something he never planned on doing. That is the reality that I believe we are facing at this point when it comes to Jones versus Aspinall. This is completely on the side of the UFC, and Jon is responsible a little bit as well, but I think the UFC had it in their minds that they could make this fight happen, and they failed. They absolutely failed. They could not change Jon's mind, and we're going to talk about why I believe Jon Jones' mind could not be changed. We're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about what I think the future looks like for Tom Aspinall, because it feels good, man. Jon Jones, he's a guy that, he's been around for forever. He's fought through multiple different generations of fighters in the UFC, and he's accomplished a lot of amazing things, right? When you look at the resume of Jon, and, he's done a lot of great things, but he's got a checkered past, right? He's a cheater. I don't understand it. I don't look at Jon Jones as the GOAT, man. I think he's a well-rounded fighter. He's obviously accomplished a lot of different things, but this is a guy to me that I'm always going to remember this moment when Jon Jones had the biggest challenge in front of him. And I know the Daniel Cormier fights, they were massive. The build-ups with DC, those were, in my opinion, that is the biggest rivalry in UFC history, if not one of them. And I believe that Jon has walked away from the biggest challenge of his career. And I think if Jon could have went out there and beaten Tom Aspinall, that would have been unbelievable, to go out there and beat this phenom generational talent that we're seeing in the heavyweight division. But we knew better than that. We knew that this fight wasn't going to happen. And this was the MMA fans. The petition was going around. Every comment on social media, strip Jon Jones, Dana. And Dana just kind of blew it off, man. Yeah, how many signatures does that thing have? A couple 100,000? How many fight fans are around the world? 400 million? Like, Dana tried to play it off like it wasn't some big deal. The MMA fans were tired of it. We were sick and tired of the BS from Jones. We were tired of the BS from the UFC. The bottom line is Jon walked away from the biggest challenge of his career. That's the bottom line. Every time there's a dangerous power hitter in front of Jon Jones, he suddenly needs all of these different things to happen in order for him to accept the fight. And by the way, it's not like Jon was some ranked contender in the division. He was the heavyweight champion. The heavyweight champion, just like when all the drama was going on with Francis Ngannou and all the back and forths of Jon trying to price himself out, and there was all this drama going on. But it seems like every time there's a dangerous challenge in front of Jon, he wants no parts of it. And I know he fought Alexander Gustafsson back in the day. Daniel Cormier, he's fought some outstanding fighters. But when we talk about the guys with the one-shot hitter-quitter power, Jon is nowhere to be found. He's nowhere to be found, and it is very clear that Jon wanted no parts of Aspinall, man. Wanted no parts of him. And I know Jon had his career, and, he's done what he's done. But the bottom line is he was the heavyweight champion. He had no problem once Ngannou was gone out of the promotion, coming back and fighting Ciryl Gane, going out there fighting a washed old man Stipe Miocic, to where he had an interim champion in his weight class that he refused to acknowledge and wanting no parts of. This could have been the biggest fight of Jon's career. I know he had massive fights with Daniel Cormier, but given the aura and the vibe that Aspinall has and the challenge that he presents to Jon, this would have been the biggest challenge of his career. And if Jon could have went out there and beaten Tom, dude, like his case for GOAT, like a lot of people look at him as the greatest. I don't think he is. I don't think he's the GOAT of all time. But I think that this would have just proven the point that, Dana could have just shoved it up everyone's ass. Look at what Jon was able to do. And I think that that was part of the motive for Dana White. But let's be real, man. This is why Jon Jones walked away. Okay, people are going to say, Jon already had his career, man. All the Jon Jones meat riders out there. Man, Tom didn't retire him. Jon just walked away from the sport on top, blah, blah, blah. No, he didn't, man. If Tom Aspinall was not in the picture, Jon Jones would have already probably had another fight by now. That's the reality. Jon Jones left and retired because of Tom Aspinall, man. If Jon Jones was so adamant about him wanting to retire, wouldn't he have just announced that after he beat Stipe Miocic? Oh, I've done it all. I'm done. That's it. They would have played his little promo up on the screen. Dana would have been ranting and raving at the post-fight presser. Jon Jones is the greatest of all time. But no, he went on a world tour. Dana White did in terms of the media. I guarantee it. Aspinall versus Jones is going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I guarantee it. It's going to happen. Never happened. It was never going to happen. And this is the reason right here. It all comes down to this little tweet that Jon Jones had replied to a fan of by saying, how would you defeat Tom? By not even giving him the chance. I believe that the UFC, right? We've heard what Ariel has said, and a lot of other outlets out there have basically said, look, the UFC called Jones's bluff. Jon's like, I need FU money, which he had made pretty clear. If you want me to step in there with someone like Tom Aspinall, I'm going to need to be taken care of financially. He made that clear, basically, right? This comes down to the fact that Jon never wanted to give Tom the opportunity, man. That's the reality, because I do think that there is a path to victory for Jon. But given that you're out there getting tagged on the feet by a 40-some-year-old washed-out Stipe Miocic who had not fought since the Venom fight kits had been around until he fought Jon Jones, that fight made absolutely no sense, man. He's getting tagged up by an old man, Stipe Miocic, and it's like, if that's Aspinall, he's getting knocked the fuck out. He's getting knocked the hell out. Jon's not an idiot. He knows that the reality of this fight is there's a very, very good chance that Tom would flatline him and take everything that Jon has done in his career and built off of that. That's what Jon never wanted to happen, man. That's what this was all about. And Jon was wrestling with the idea in his head. He's like, okay, sounds like from what we're hearing, the UFC was like, they basically called his bluff. They're like, here's the dough, man. Here's what you were asking for. And I think Jon was like, oh shit, they're going to match this. Or they're going to, basically give me what I'm looking for. And I think that Jon was wrestling in his mind the entire time of just saying, this ain't worth the risk. It's not worth the possibility of me getting absolutely flatlined by this young heavyweight who's dangerous, who's hungry, and the future of the UFC in terms of the heavyweight division. Jon never wanted to pay it forward, man. We see Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, where these guys have a name, right? And Poirier goes out there, gives Benoit Saint-Denis the chance. Gaethje gave Fiziev the chance. We see these fighters who pay it forward, man. They give that next generation the opportunity, and it's just a different scenario because Jon is someone who's looked at as the GOAT. He's been around for forever, but he was the champion, and he was acting like Tom Aspinall wasn't the interim champion who had the same amount of title defenses in the weight class as Jones. That's what this was about. Jon Jones was wrestling with this idea in his head. He's like, man, the UFC's going to give me all this money, but he did not want to face the reality of the likelihood that he would get knocked out against Aspinall. That's the reason he walked away, in my opinion. Didn't even want to give him the chance. Didn't want Aspinall to have that opportunity to build off of the name of Jon Jones. Everything that Jon has done in his career, which, by the way, it is a lot more impressive than what Aspinall has done. There's no denying that. But it's the fact of you're the champion. And Jon wanted to sit up there and pick and choose his fights like the I am the belt type of situation, which, to be fair, Jon is the draw in the fight for sure. But Aspinall, he's got the fans on his side, man. He had the fans on his side, and this is a win for the MMA community, dude. We knew that this fight wasn't happening. We knew Jon Jones wanted no part of this. He had made it so clear for so long, man, that he wanted nothing to do with Aspinall. Nothing to do with him, right? And that's the reality. Didn't even want to give Tom the opportunity. And look, this comes down to Dana White and the UFC's delusion. Every time it comes down to the UFC booking the biggest fight that we could possibly make, the mega fight, the blockbuster fights, the reality is the UFC is not getting it done, man. They're not getting it done. Think about all of the massive fights that have been on the horizon that they have not been able to get done, that they've let slip through their fingertips. And this comes down to Dana White and the UFC's delusion. I believe Jon Jones knew in his mind he never wanted to take this fight. And then you heard Dana, at the UFC 316 post-fight presser, he's like, Jon accepted the fight. And so basically it's almost like Jon went back on what he told the UFC, is essentially what that sounds like. They were adamant that they were going to be able to get this done. I guarantee that it's going to get done. We're going to get this fight done, the heavyweight fight here. And you could see the doubt. Look at Dana's face here. He's beyond disappointed because he's made to look like a fool, going out on all these platforms, telling everyone. It became a running joke at this point, but it was embarrassing of Jon. If we walk into a room, Jon Jones coming out of that room. He's the greatest of all time. And he embarrassed himself. Dana White absolutely embarrassed himself for over a year now, trying to build up this fight, gassing up Jon Jones, pumping him up like Jon Jones is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Trying to appease Jon to come in and take the fight against Aspinall, and it all backfired because none of it worked. The UFC was delusional. They thought that Jon Jones, Jon never turns down fights. He never turns down fights. Jon Jones, he's the baddest man ever. No, he's not, man. He's not. That's the reality. And Dana White looks like an absolute goofball now. 100%. 100%. Telling everybody that this fight's going to happen, getting everyone's hopes up, and we all kind of knew that this wasn't going to happen, man. So it's not like we had our hopes through the roof. And after a while, this faded away to where even if they announced that this fight was happening tomorrow, I wouldn't even really care. It lost all of its steam. It lost all of its steam. The UFC is to blame for this, along with Dana White. Their delusion. They cannot make the big fights happen, man. They're missing on a lot of them, and they delayed Tom Aspinall's career, man. They wasted valuable time of his prime. They could have just stripped Jon Jones. Aspinall could have been the champion, and we could have already had probably 2 fights by now with Aspinall with 2 title defenses. But nope. Had to wait around because of the last big draw, I guess you could say, according to Dana, for the OGs out there, Jon Jones. What a disgrace this whole thing has been, man. What an absolute disgrace this whole thing has been. And they've been refusing to promote Tom Aspinall, so hopefully they start kicking it into gear because they have a generational talent, man, in this division. Tom Aspinall is everything you could want. He's got the style. He knocks people the hell out. He's fun. He's got a YouTube channel. He does all these interviews. He goes on podcasts. Like, he's a fun dude, man. Jon, I'd love to fight you, Jon. Like, Tom Aspinall's just a chill guy. Great representative of the sport. The UFC said, nah, we're going to continue to promote Jon Jones, a guy that continuously, time and time again, sets a bad example, makes the UFC look bad, and all that the UFC has done for Jon Jones, bending over backwards, literally, for Jon Jones for a number of years. And then this is what happens. You know that's what's going through Dana's head. All that we've done for this guy, all the compliments that I've paid him, all the gassing him up I've done, all the defending I've done of Jon Jones, and this is how he's going to repay me? At the end of the day, like, come on, man. We all knew that this was going to happen. The UFC was delusional thinking that this could happen. That was the reality, and this comes down to this. Jon should have never have been rewarded with this fight. This fight should have never have happened. When Jon Jones beat Cyril Gane, it should have been as simple as, Jon, you are fighting Tom Aspinall, or if you are not, you retire and you're done. Vacate the title, get the hell out of the way. Get the hell out of the way. This fight should have never have happened, man. Right, and Jon got injured, so it basically got moved back a year, and it just held the entire division up. And Dana's up there going, yeah, but everything that Jon's done with his legacy and this and that, we were going to basically give him every opportunity. Yeah, how fair is that to Tom Aspinall? Guy that goes out there, defends an interim title, one of the most embarrassing things in the company's history. Everyone's, he's been the uncrowned champion. We've all been looking at Aspinall as the champion. Jon's just been a guy in the way at this point. And I think that this has damaged Jon's career, dude. I absolutely think that. And people are delusional, say, no, it didn't. If Tom Aspinall was nowhere to be found, Jon Jones would still be fighting. That's the reality. And if Tom Aspinall goes out there, we know Jon is going to be the biggest fan of whoever Tom is fighting next. He's going to hope that Almeida or Gane or Volkov or whoever it is that's going to be next for Aspinall or one of those guys can go in there and beat Tom so that Jon can go on the keyboard and be like, yeah, see, I told you, he was just a guy, man. Big today, gone tomorrow, whatever his little saying was that he kept saying. The bottom line is Jon knew that Aspinall was a different challenge. Oh, they said the same thing about Gon. He knows it's different. Everybody knows it's different. Everybody knows it's different. This fight should have never have happened. The UFC wasted a fight. They rewarded Jon Jones with a free title layup, defense here against an old wash Stipe Miocic who should have never have came back and fought. That's the reality. That's the absolute reality. This should have never have been happened. And this is something that I think the UFC is going to be kicking themselves for, right? Maybe not because Jon Jones is, a draw. They made a bunch of money off of this. And, the big heavyweight fight, Stipe Miocic, the GOAT heavyweight, and Jones adding that to the resume. They wasted a fight, man. They should have made Jon Jones fight Aspinall at this point. But now it's time to move on. It's time to move on. It is now the Aspinall era. The Jones saga is behind us. And I'm excited, man, as a fight fan, because we've recognized for the longest time that, look, Tom's the uncrowned champion. There's no question he's the uncrowned champion, and he has a very unique skill set. It is not often that you see heavyweights move like Tom Aspinall. He's got devastating knockout power, excellent boxing, good footwork, timing. I mean, the way he feints, everything about Aspinall spells superstar. And now the UFC owes it to this guy to put everything into promoting and pushing Tom Aspinall. But the issue is this. There really isn't many guys for him to fight. And that is essentially, I think, what Jon knew was, look, what are you going to do? What are you going to do here without me, man? What are you going to do without me? There's no one for this guy to fight, and to a degree, he's kind of right. But on the other side, it's like, I want the division moving. I know a lot of us do. Tom's a big name, man. He's a star. The UFC can keep pushing this guy. Promote this guy as the baddest heavyweight on the planet, man. He's got the speed. He KOs people. This guy could defend the title 3 times a year. His fights are so damn fast. He takes like no damage and knocks people the hell out within 2 rounds. He's got Cyril Gane. He's got, the Volkov rematch. He's got Jailton Almeida. There's some challenges. There's, Alex Pineda out there. There's Ankalaev, the light heavyweight champion who could maybe move up and fight Aspinall. There's still some fights. There's absolutely still some fights. Now, are they the Jones fight? No. But at this point, we were sick of that anyway. Who cares about that fight anymore, honestly? That's how we were all feeling. We were just sick and tired of it, man. And now we have the Aspinall era. It is time to move forward with Tom Aspinall. The UFC needs to be all in on this guy. They need to promote him. They need to push him because he is a generational talent in the heavyweight division, dude. Without question. We've never seen anyone move and fight like Aspinall. Period. Point blank. He's got a good personality, represents the sport well. He's fun. He retired Jon Jones without even fighting him, just like he predicted. Just like he predicted. Now he's got some fights in front of him. He's got Cyril Gane. He's got the Volkov rematch. He's got Jailton Almeida. It feels good to finally get the heavyweight division moving again after the UFC and Jon Jones held it up all this damn time, man. Wasted a year out of the career of Aspinall. Like I said, we probably could have had 2-3 fights by now from Tom, dude. And we need to get him booked before year's end. I want to see him in there before year's end, without question. The UFC needs to make it up to this guy. I'm sure that they will. Dana basically said that they will. Hopefully that's financially. Hopefully that's by getting them active, getting them busy, because we have some challenges out there. We don't have a ton, but we have some challenges. And I would rather have the division moving on than sitting there waiting around for Jon Jones to make up his damn mind. Or it feels like Jon made up his mind a really long time ago, and the UFC just kept feeling like they could do something to try to change Jon's mind. But at the end of the day, we knew Jon was not going to take this fight because it was too big of a risk, and the thought of going out there and getting flatlined by Aspinall outweighed anything else. But now we have movement in the heavyweight division. Tom is the champion. It is a good time for the heavyweight division and for the fight world, man, because it is, we can finally put this BS behind us. It went on for far too long. The UFC allowing that to happen, one of the biggest disgraces in company history. And a lot of people were like, oh, well, maybe it has something to do with the TV deal. And if that was the case, somebody like, it's still kind of shitty, but at least there would be some sort of explanation. But to know that all of this happened for literally nothing, it's absolutely crazy to me. Absolutely crazy, but all of that in the past. We move forward. This is the Tom Aspinall era. It is an exciting time to be a fight fan because this is a generational talent in the heavyweight division. Excited to see where things go from here for Tom Aspinall.